What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, I wanted to cover Pinterest ads, and I wanted to go over the very beginner basics of how you can launch your first product and set up your first conversion campaign. Now, with the recent inconsistencies and the iOS update and all of these random ad account bans and profile bans that a lot of you guys are likely experiencing with Facebook, it's probably in your best interest to at least learn some new marketing platforms that you can have in your back pocket in the event that Facebook is controlling your business, when in reality, you want to be in control of your business. So I'm going to go ahead and hop in my computer, show you a little bit around the interface, and show you how you can set up your targeting the same way that I do. And I just wanted to give you guys a quick reminder that if you are interested in winning a free 30-minute consulting call with me, all you have to do is leave a like on this video, only if, of course, you find value out of it. Leave a comment down below and make sure that you're subscribed. All right, guys, so now we are looking at my Pinterest dashboard. I'm gonna show you guys around just a little bit. I'm not gonna go too much into depth on things that you can learn elsewhere, but just give you guys an insight as to how I target when it comes to my product tests for my e-commerce brands. So over here we have the business hub and we have the home feed. I prefer to create pins in advance that I can create for my ads. For those of you guys that don't know what pins are, it's just the way that Pinterest calls their ads. They call them pins, and you can either create them at the ad level like on Facebook, or you can create them kind of like how with Facebook you can create page posts, line them up in advance, and have them actually show on your profile so that people can organically see them. So I prefer just going ahead and creating pins in advance so I can just select them once I go to actually set up my ad. So now again, here's where you're gonna go ahead and do that in the business hub. If you're interested in learning about some of your competition or in understanding what goes into a good successful ad, that's where you're gonna wanna go to your regular home feed. Now, since we are on the business side of our Pinterest account, we can go ahead and create a pin or create an ad. With our analytics, obviously very similarly to Facebook's account overview section of the ads manager, we can go ahead and get an overview of our account and our general metrics. Now, in the ads category, I really only use reporting to be able to see the status of how my ads have done in a given time frame, setting up my columns the way that I like to set them up as similarly to Facebook as possible, so I can speak the language that I'm used to when it comes to analyzing my metrics. And then of course, audiences, if we want to create our custom audiences for retargeting or for act-alike audiences, which is essentially what Pinterest calls our lookalike audiences that we're used to on Facebook. And then if you have any other accounts, they will show over here just to make sure that you are in the right business account for the brand that you're running at any given time. So now if you're not sure where to go to launch your first campaigns, you can essentially just come into reporting, and even if you have no campaigns live at that point in time, it will bring you to an area in which you can create campaigns and manage any that you may have. So we're gonna go ahead and create a campaign. We always wanna optimize for conversions, very similarly to Facebook, because of course we always wanna optimize for what we are interested in getting, and we don't care too much for getting a ton of traffic or a ton of brand awareness at this point in time. We want sales. All right, so let's say we are selling a rainbow sweater or rainbow sweatshirt, right? I like to just name it the campaign name and then our metrics, right? So let's say we are getting the product for $10 and we're selling it for 30, right? Then that means our selling price minus our cost is going to be our break-even point. So I might have a 20 in here to indicate that our 20 is our break-even point. And then we have our break-even ROAS, right? Our break-even ROAS is our selling price divided by our break-even point. So in this case, that'll be around a 1.33. Alexa, what's 30 divided by 20?
30 divided by 20 is 1.5.
So that would be 1.5, says the guy who had an A- in Calc 2 in a very difficult engineering school. Okay, now obviously we want to set our campaign for active, and we are going to continue. So now you're gonna see some pretty interesting things at the ad set level, or rather ad group level, that's what it's called in the Pinterest ad account, that you might not see when it comes to Facebook. Now here you have the opportunity of choosing any custom audiences that you may or may not have already created. You probably haven't created them yet, but if you're coming from Facebook with existing data, you can plug in your email list lookalike here to get a little bit of momentum within your Pinterest ad account. Now here is where we are going to select our interests. This is going to be comparable to our detailed targeting section on Facebook, where all of the broad interests that people show signs of interaction with when it comes to other pins and other profiles and accounts, this is where they are going to show up within one of these many categories. And then we also have a keyword section. Now this is very similar to those of you who are familiar with Google keyword search and targeting in your Google ads. We also have that option for Pinterest. We just want to make sure that there's enough search volume for that specific keyword if we're going to go ahead and use it. I usually stay away from keywords in the beginning because I want to start broad and see if my product has proof of concept with the broad interests, and then I'll get a little bit into that keyword targeting only if those broad interests perform well. So now if we're targeting a rainbow hoodie, let's say it is for women, then we'll go into women's fashion and we can pick a category that we think best fits the product, or we can go broad and just select that main women's fashion category. So I'm gonna go ahead and click women's top, and then what you're gonna see is the audience size change up here on the top right? Usually I shoot for 1 million plus, as I do with Facebook. Pinterest is a little bit smaller, and therefore smaller audiences around 500,000 to 750K are generally okay unless you plan on absolutely ripping budgets and scaling to the moon. So just understand that the smaller the audience, usually it might cost a little bit more. When it comes to ages, if you know the age specifically, obviously choose that age range or get on the broader side of things. I generally like to sell to people around the ages of 25 and 50, I'd say conservatively. So I usually go ahead and just keep this section broad. As far as locations, most of your sales are probably going to be coming in from the US. But just like Facebook, even though a lot of sales might come from the US, you might also get very profitable sales in different markets. So you don't want to neglect those. So I'm going to go through and add the countries that I like to target for Pinterest. So if you were targeting just the United States, you can go ahead and just leave the languages broad. But if you're targeting other countries, I do recommend, at least in the beginning, coming in here and only selecting English. So when it comes to devices, I usually do all devices. Even though a lot of purchases are going to be coming from mobile, there's always going to be those straggler sales that come in from people who use their laptop. And I think it's a pretty even split, as it is with Facebook, when it comes to desktop users versus mobile users. When it comes to the ad group placements, I usually leave it as all, very similarly to how I do auto placements on Facebook, because their algorithm probably knows best on where users are more likely to convert. So if you are doing a regular targeting, interest targeting based campaign, and it shows up on browse, or whether you're doing keywords and it shows up through their search, Pinterest is usually going to try to optimally deliver that to, again, where your customers are most likely to convert. Now, I usually uncheck this. I personally have not split tested checking this or unchecking it, but I see it similarly to the way that I see the expand interest box, which is usually to reach more people that it says are likely to convert, but that usually don't convert. But again, take everything that I am saying with a grain of salt, because I would still consider myself more of a beginner when it comes to the Pinterest space. So again, this is just kind of the baseline of where you should start, and then you should adopt your own strategies, your own style, and learn from your own trial and error. Now, when it comes to the daily budgets, very similarly to where maybe it's not a good idea to set our starting budgets at 10 times our break-even point, but rather somewhere between 1/3 and half of our break-even point, because Pinterest takes a lot more time than Facebook usually to optimize. You might need to let an ad set literally sit and cook up for 4, 5, 6 days before it starts to get profitable and consistent. And that's when it gets a little bit tricky when it comes to Pinterest versus Facebook, because the mass product testing capabilities are not as good on Pinterest, because again, it takes more data and it takes a little bit more optimization than Facebook in order for Pinterest to really start to pick up. So let's say this hoodie yielded us a $20 break-even point. I'd probably set these budgets relatively conservatively at around $10 per day. Now, when it comes to the optimization event, again, you want to use checkout, and they don't have a purchase optimization for some reason, but you're going to be optimizing for conversions. You're going to be optimizing for checkout, because that is their equivalent of a completed purchase. And then when it comes to your bidding in the beginning, I like to leave this as automatic, because again, I don't know my audience, and I think Pinterest is going to do a much better job of spending my money than I would if I were to just try to automatically go into manual bidding and set a certain cost per purchase constraint. Now, I know I look a little bit like a vampire right now, but I'd still appreciate it if you like liked, commented, and subscribed on this video. I just wanted to quickly hop in and announce the winner of the last 30-minute consulting call giveaway. If you see your name somewhere over here on the screen, please make sure to reach out to me on Instagram, in our awesome Telegram group, or in our even more awesome Facebook group with a bunch of other hungry e-commerce entrepreneurs. That is going to be the Ecom Tide Facebook group, which is one of the first links down below in the description. So make sure that you hop in there regardless of whether you win or not. But if you do win, that's one place you can reach me, or you can reach me on Instagram or in our Telegram group so that you can get that value. Usually you want to start with auto bidding, get a little bit of feedback, get a little bit of data, and see where your average cost per purchases are looking like, or what you need in order to be profitable and the highest CPA that you are able to afford. And then once you isolate some good interest or maybe some good lookalike audiences from your email list, then you can start to get into the custom bid, which is again going to be anywhere between about half of your break-even point all the way upwards of maybe 2 times your break-even point. But you're going to have to get a good sense by just testing multiple bids in that range, very similarly to how you would on Facebook. Now, in the event that you are doing manual bidding and you are setting a custom bid, let's say in this case we were shooting for $20 cost per purchases or less, I'm probably going to want to start off with like maybe 15. Usually it's going to maintain below that, but it's not exactly like Facebook, where with Facebook, if you bid 15, you'll likely get 10. With Pinterest, if you bid 15, you're probably going to get around 15, if not $1 or $2 below or $1 or $2 above. But again, it depends on how well the initial response of the budget that you're putting out gets spent on Pinterest. And one more thing to note, when you are doing manual bidding, you have to set a budget higher than the actual bid. According to the Pinterest rep that I have that I've been talking to, it's anywhere between 4 and 10 times whatever your average cost per purchase is. So if you wanted to test with a target cost and with Pinterest equivalence to manual bidding, your ad group budget relatively high. When it comes to custom bidding, you actually have the option, which you want to have is 7 to 7 to 1. So disregard this little note here. This is actually usually going to give you the best and optimal results, and it's going to look for customers that are likely to purchase in a short time window from when they've seen your ad. And then in this section, you just want to make sure that you go in and that you select any of the ad creatives that you want to use. I suggest using ads that have a little bit of text in them, trying some video ads, trying some long form, vertical form ad creatives, or some square form creatives. But at the end of the day, go through your home feed and see what is converting well for other people, right? It is likely that if they're spending a good amount of money, and if you go into that account's profile and they're getting a lot of active monthly users, like 2-3 million plus per month, you know they're doing something right. So it is likely that if you can creative hack a little bit and implement some of their strategies that they've used to be successful over to your own account, that they'll also have the highest likelihood of converting well. So that is pretty much it for the cold testing. I would go ahead and create, at least 6 of these identical ad groups, and you can do this within the same campaign. And then you're going to have 1 campaign, you're going to have 7 ad groups, and you're going to have as many creatives as you can possibly launch in the beginning, because Pinterest is a very creative based platform, even more than Facebook is per ad set. You're going to have multiple creatives per ad set, right? And then again, you want to go ahead and check up on those metrics maybe in 2, 3, or even 4 days, because it is likely that they're not going to get a ton of traction in the first 48 to 72 hours like they normally would with Facebook. So make sure that you come up with your own set of KPIs. I might do another video that talks about the KPIs that I look for, but just overall try to maintain around 1/3 of your break-even point as your cost per add to cart. So if your ads have been running for like 48 or 72 hours and they don't have add to carts anywhere, or there's ad sets that again don't even have a single add to cart but already spent more than your break-even point, then you're probably going to want to scratch those. But even if it doesn't have a purchase by 2 times your break-even point, it might get 3 purchases between the range of spending 2 times your break-even point and 3 times your break-even point, because again, Pinterest takes a little bit longer to optimize. So I hope you guys got a ton of value out of this video. If you did, I would really appreciate it if you left a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on Pinterest and if you think it is worth getting into in comparison to Facebook. In my opinion, I think Pinterest is awesome. It's a little bit more difficult to scale, but when it comes to getting consistency, although it's a little bit slower to take a product off the ground, once you do, it is very automated. It is relatively passive. There's not as much active monitoring and management that's required in comparison to Facebook, and you can have campaigns and ad groups that are just cruising for months on end that are consistently profitable if you play your cards right. So let me know if you guys want to see more videos on Pinterest or any other marketing platforms, or any other video suggestions that you guys have, or any topics that you're struggling with. Leave them in the comments below and I will be sure to get to all of them. And as always, I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video.